So, do you believe in curses? Is this upcoming game between Dundee and Rangers at Dens Park cursed? Well, it appears that once again there are doubts over the possibility of the fixture taking place, and even talks of further postponements by Dundee of both the upcoming game on Saturday against Motherwell at Dens Park and also their game against us on the 10th of April. It appears that Dundee's pitch yet again could well be in an unfit state, an unplayable state, due to heavy rainfall predicted in the Dundee area, because of course it only rains in Dundee, doesn't it? It is quite remarkable that once again we are talking about a situation where a pitch at Dens Park could be deemed not suitable for top flight football. Keywords there being top and flight football. This, I think, is becoming an issue more so because of the fact that it is once again the fourth, fifth, sixth, maybe time that a game may be cancelled at Dens Park due to the pitch being in an unplayable condition. The Scottish FA have talked previously about taking sanction against Dundee and doing something to sanction the club for the fact they cannot get their pitch in a playable state. You can talk all you want about how well Dundee have done this year, after being promoted, but fact remains that there should be basic standards, basic requirements in terms of a ground, in terms of not just the supporter experience, but also in terms of the pitch quality, the lighting, etc., etc. And it does appear that this pitch is one of the worst in Scotland. I mean, if we think back to that postponement of the Dundee Rangers game, it was postponed, being the only postponed game in Scotland that weekend, despite the fact there had been heavy rainfall across the whole of Scotland. Yet Dundee's could not get their pitch in a playable state. Sanctions, I think, the only way to kind of make clubs bring their grounds up to specification in terms of not just, like I said, supporter experience, ticketing, stands, facilities, etc., is also to look at, and it's got to be about pitch quality. And by pitch quality, I mean the fact that it actually has grass on it, the fact that it is actually a smooth, playable surface, the fact that it has adequate drainage, the fact that it has adequate undersoil heating. These must be the basic, very basic expectations for you to be able to take part in the top flight competition. You look at the English Premier League, where there are very strict guidelines as to the conditions of the pitch and the stadium. You look at even other sports who are leading the way on this. I mean, Guinness Premiership in rugby in England, if your ground and pitch is not up to standards, you are not allowed to be promoted to the top flight, as happened to Ealing Trailfinders this past season. So I think that is something that Scottish football need to look at, the fact that if your ground cannot meet a minimum standard and a minimum requirement, you are not allowed to enter the league until those requirements have been met. I think this is more than reasonable. It's not just the fact that it happened to Rangers, it's the fact that it is impacting on the whole of the Scottish season. If it is a case that this game against Motherwell on Saturday and the subsequent game against Rangers is cancelled due to the pitch condition yet again at Dens Park, this will have a major knock-on effect in terms of the split. These are the last two fixtures, for Dundee, kind of before the split takes place. Everything needs to be in place before those split fixtures can be decided upon. There's still key decisions to make. Dundee are in the hunt, as are Motherwell, for the 6th place. Rangers in the hunt for the title, one game behind Celtic. That game, that needs to be level as well. And the possibility that you could have a situation where Dundee are not in the top 6 and that fixture doesn't take place, and then you've got Rangers playing a team outside the top 6 and playing one more game post split than everyone else is playing, which obviously then questions level playing fields and fairness. It just, again, it smacks of amateurism from Dundee that they cannot get their pitch in a playable state. And look, I understand that we have bad weather in Scotland. I understand that, that it rains 364 days a year in Scotland. There's that one day, I think it's in July, when it doesn't rain. It always goes back and reminds me of the old Danny Boy joke about Noah going around the world collecting 2 animals of every species, and he gets to Scotland and he says that, can I have 2 of every species of your animals, please? Because God has predicted it will rain for 40 days and 40 nights and there'll be a great flood. And the Scottish, after they've finished laughing, say, oh, we're on day 344 here. It is a running joke in Scotland as regards the weather. But, you look around other top flight leagues where weather is an issue: Sweden, Denmark, Iceland, Norway, Finland. Very rarely are any of their games postponed. Very rarely are any of their pitches in a state not to play the game. Dens Park is quite simply not fit for Premiership football. It is not a fit standard. And if it is not a fit standard, therefore sanctions must be taken. Now, according to reports in the media today, Dundee are doing all they can to get the game on. Groundsmen are working around the clock. In addition to that, they've purportedly borrowed pitch covers from Celtic to cover the Dens Park surface to try and get it into a standard where it can be played. And it's not just about, maintaining a basic standard. It's making sure that pitch is actually, properly grassed, properly smooth, properly balanced to be able to play proper football on. I know Dundee probably won't want that. They'll probably want a rough, heavy-legged, horrible pitch because they know they can't out-football Rangers. They'll want to make it as difficult as possible and pull the pitch standards down. That's the kind of thing we're used to seeing from these hammer throwers. But there has to be, I think, honestly, a real hard look at this in terms of if this game was to be postponed again, and in future, if this event reoccurs, the fact that Dundee will be in the Premiership next season, that, there is a real genuine sanction in place from the SPFL and from the SFA to deter teams from allowing their pitches to get into these states. The problem we've got is that there is none at the moment, and the best way to deal with it is not fines. Fines are neither here nor there. A lot of clubs can basically afford the fines, particularly the poultry fines that are handed out by the SFA. So, for me, there is only one way to go with this, and that is points deductions. When you're actually hitting teams where it actually hurts and taking points off them, and taking even awarding games to the teams they're playing against, that is where it will hurt. If, for example, like I said, this game does not take place on Wednesday the 10th and the Motherwell game does not take place on Saturday, I would propose that the SFA turn around or the SPFL turn around and say to Dundee, well, that's going down as 2 losses for you, a 3-0 win for Motherwell, a 3-0 win for Rangers. You lose 6 points there straight off. You can even perhaps fine them a further 3 points for not having their pitch in a fair state. This will encourage, I think, teams to actually do something about the state of their stadiums until you actually hit them where it genuinely hurts and you risk their opportunity to play in the top 6 post-split league, or you risk their membership of the top flight. It's only through that you're going to actually get a response from these teams. And to me, like I said, it just smacks of absolute amateurism by the Dundee board and by the Dundee ground staff. They cannot maintain a workable pitch. I know a lot of it is down to the poor drainage conditions and the rubbish under soil heating system at Dens Park. Now, I know some of this surrounds the possibility they want a new ground built, so they don't want to invest in the infrastructure, etc., etc. But it is something that should not be allowed to occur in a top flight competition. It is an utter joke, an absolute joke. Now, the other thing that has been proposed, and I think this is also a good proposal to look at, is the fact that the game could be moved, that both these games, as they need to be played before a set date, have to take place. Therefore, there is a proposition where both games could be moved. Now, there's a number of possibilities for this. One, that it is moved to a neutral ground somewhere else and played at a neutral ground, which, therefore presents whole problems around ticketing, around transport for fans, etc., etc. Or that it is switched to the away team's ground, that it's switched to Fir Park, it's switched to Ibrox, both of which are in playable states, which is in the same country. I know Ibrox is kind of like the odd exception because Ibrox is one of the finest stadiums in European football. But, at the end of the day, something needs to be in place. It cannot be a situation where this game does not take place, or this game is postponed yet again, or moved yet again. It just would be an absolute joke, from the SPFL to allow that to happen. It could even be, like I said, a situation where and this would be the ultimate joke, in my opinion. But I've read reports as well that, there's talk of them moving the game to Tannadice, which is literally just across the city. So why is it that Tannadice is playable, but Dens Park isn't? It is an absolute laugh. And really does show that Dundee are not fit to be part of this Premier League until they get their ground into a fit state. It is an utter joke. Guys, I'd love to know what your opinions are on this matter. Thank you for watching the video, guys. Let me tell you something. I think this video is cursed. It's taken me about 8 opportunities due to crap internet to film this video. Utterly ridiculous. Perhaps the video is cursed. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. Please obviously hit the sub on the way out, help the channel to keep on growing. And as always, 2 things I ask of you. Number 1, smash the like. And number 2, please always remember we are the people.